Welcome to the season kickoff episode of the Flag Stays Down podcast. Preseason is over, although some of us were already thinking ahead to next week before we even kicked off today. Boys, we got a full house tonight following a 2-0 loss to Manchester City. You got myself, Andy, you got Parker, you got Matt. Matt, how you doing?
Doing good. Aside from the Chelsea game, doing good. A very busy weekend. Had my mother-in-law in town. Had a surprise birthday party for my brother. Hung out with some friends today all day and helping my wife cook a bunch of meals for a new diet that she started last week. So I'm doing my supportive task and helping make all of her recipes for her. Just trying to be a good husband. It doesn't always happen, but once in a blue moon. Other than that, everything was good. Got to do some stuff around the house as well. So couldn't ask for much better. Parks, good to see you. You survived.
I'm alive. Tired, but I'm alive. Funny when you're mid-30s and you go to a bachelor party and you realize you just don't recover the same way. You can usually keep up and stay out. You just don't recover the same way. So that's a nice reminder to take her easy every once in a while. Oh, I had a great time at the bachelor party. It was sick. They had a huge house. They had like a house that could sleep 30, and with outdoor games and grills and everything you could ever ask for 25, 30 guys. So it was a blast. We had a great time. And yeah, everyone was safe. No one got arrested to my knowledge. Nobody died to my knowledge. So everyone got where they needed to be and got it done. So it was a blast of a weekend. But probably the highlight was golfing with my little brother. So him and I rode in the cart together. That was the first time that we've gotten to golf together. We both are relatively new to the sport. I started picking it up this summer and kind of only been golfing for 2-3 years now. So both of us beginners, but you get that itch of like 5, 10, 12 times around where you just hit it pure and it goes and you're like, oh, I want to do more of that. And then you come back to reality and you scuff the next couple. But like those good shots make you feel good. And then I woke up on Saturday morning. I was like, shit, man, I wish I was golfing. So yeah, it was a fun weekend. Had a blast of a time. Don't want to do it again this weekend. I want to relax this weekend.
Well, we're all glad you're alive. And amen to the waking up wishing you were golfing. Because man, it's been a busy weekend. I wish I was golfing. Yeah, first of all, I want to give a shout out to the guys at the Shades of Blue podcast for having me on midweek. If you didn't catch that, check that out on their stream. Talking a little City Chelsea. But yeah, after that, it's my son's first ever American egg throw ball, whatever you want to call it. It's not football, but had that this weekend. And he's a lover, not a fighter. But to see him go out and I think he had 5-6 tackles, he had a sack. Like it was pretty impressive to see. So very, very proud of him there. And then spent today working in mother-in-law's garden. So got a whole bunch of cucumbers and cabbage and all that. So I spent the evening making. I think I've got 6 jars of sauerkraut going. I got 5 or 6 jars of pickles going. So gonna be eating pickled for a while, and my house smells wonderful. Just in time to move. So, but yeah, outside of that, it's start of the Premier League season. So welcome back, boys. Unfortunately, not super ceremonious here at Chelsea, dropping 2-0 at home to the reigning champions, Manchester City. I don't know about you guys, but just my first impression of the match, I was already looking forward to next week. This was more just preseason. I know it sets us back 3 points from the top of the table to start the season, but as soon as the schedule came out, like, yep, that's a big L. So I was already moved on. So I was looking for other things. Parker, I was actually thinking during the match of something you told me about watching F1. Of you just gotta watch the other guys, see what the other guys do, and just kind of follow them and ride along with them. And so that's what I was doing. I was watching players and I was kind of riding along with them and seeing how they were doing. Not too worried about the result. It was actually a lot more enjoyable. That was probably the happiest that I've left Highbury after a loss. So props to you, Parker, on that. What are you guys' first impressions?
It's funny that you say that for a couple of reasons. One, obviously Max dominated, right? A couple seasons ago. So yeah, two through 20 was a hell of a season besides him. Two, I read the full group chat once I landed, and it didn't seem like you were very happy. I thought I was gonna get Grumpy Collins on this podcast tonight. Funny the take of I was pretty happy leaving the pub today. That's quite interesting. You know, something I thought about after our preseason one, where we went through projections and predictions and whatnot. And I know that it's the state of where we are and it's realistic, but how far we've fallen in the sense of we predicted sixth, seventh, eighth finish for our team. No one has us in the top four. I think we would be all surprised if we made it to the top four. We're not challenging for the win. Like, it's incredible how far that gap is, how far in our minds it used to be not acceptable to not be competing for top four, and none of us feel like we're there right now. That is shocking. And then to have the first game of the year, brand new season, brand new start, to have no hope of winning a game. And we had some hope. We played better than that, right? Like, we had hope of winning the game. Wasn't completely one-sided. It just it shows the mentality of where we're at as a fan base. It's taken a couple of seasons to get here, but we're here. And that's kind of shocking to me now, kind of looking back full circle on it. Preliminary take of what I felt today.
I mean, yeah, it's City. I don't think any of us expected much in terms of like a win. Yeah, there were the way that I've kind of looked at it, and Collins, I talked to you about this. I was able to watch, kind of bits and pieces of the match throughout, and could just be the bad timing that I watched. But to me, it seemed like last year's Chelsea with a little bit more possession, creating a little more, but still having the exact same problems that we did last year. Specifically, the final third. I can't tell you how many times where I was yelling shoot and we were still trying to pass it around the box for whatever reason, trying to find that perfect pass. It just shoot the damn ball, see what happens. Nico offsides. Again, same thing. Collins, I know he didn't play preseason. He's still doing the same shit he did last year. I don't think preseason is going to fix that. I think that's just something that's going to come over years, not a preseason. That's how I look at it. It reminded me of a lot of the same things that we saw last year. The defensive lapse by Colwell, the goal by Kovacic, like a half-hearted challenge by Caicedo and Enzo. Like, we saw that a lot last year. Like, if they would throw in a half challenge, there was nobody there to stop them. Our defense was kind of in shambles. So just bits and pieces of that. It was very similar to last year. Thought that we had a lot more possession than I thought that we were going to have against City. So that's something I kind of took away as a positive. I did not expect us to have as much possession as we did against a team like that. I was a little confused by some of the substitutions. That's kind of one of the other things. But again, it could be, still kind of the first game. We're considering this an extra preseason, right? Like, we'll give you the 3, but we're still going to use this as a preseason to make sure everybody's kind of healthy, rotate some people in, do that. The biggest thing was Lavia coming off. I thought he was our best midfielder throughout the game, and to see him come off first, I guess was a little bit shocking in my mind, but time will tell. It's one game into the season. I know Parker and I have been on the trust the process train, right? We know it's going to be a process. We know changing tactics and managers and all this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take time. It's just how much time are we as fans and Chelsea as an ownership group going to give before kind of making that decision? So we'll see. I think some good things out of this, but overall, new year, slightly better, same Chelsea.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Lavia. He wasn't on our list of people to talk about, but was somebody that I was impressed with. I've been saying for much of the preseason that I think it's going to be a midfield 3 where he's going to be featuring pretty prominently. And I think we saw all of why we invested so much in a young guy like him. He's got the physicality. He can get in the passing lanes. He's got good touch, and he's got good vision. I was super impressed. That being said, I can absolutely see why he was subbed off early, man. He was limping towards the end there. And the guy's played, what, like 15 minutes in the last year? For this is an extended spring training, extended preseason for him. So I understand that, but I do want to give props to Lavia. And like you said, he was probably our best player on the pitch for good stretches there. But let's talk some debuts. Lavia wasn't technically a debut, but it sure fucking felt like it. So we had, 4 debutants in this squad? Mark Gu, Dewsbury Hall, Pedro Neto, Renato Vega. I believe that was it in terms of debuts. So we talked a little bit about these guys in preseason, but now that the matches count, and I know it's limited action for all 4 of them, who impressed you the most? Who disappointed you the most?
First off, counts.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was super impressed with Pedro Neto. I know that he came on, thundering down the tracks like a train there at the beginning and then kind of faded off. But I think a lot of that came down to tired legs for the rest of the squad. But I was super impressed with his directness. And, Noni Madueke has directness as well. But Neto was not afraid to look up and distribute after that, as opposed to, let's just see how far I can take this. I think he's got a little bit of intelligence to him, which I appreciate. And again, he came on and almost made an instant impact, almost scored seconds after coming in with a great run to the back post. So he's my most impressive. Vega was probably the one I was least impressed with. He looked like a young guy making his debut in a league way above the one he played in last year. And again, it was a short performance, and it's City. It's probably the best team in the world. So I get it. But just looking at the 90 minutes today, Vega was probably the biggest disappointment.
Parks, what say you?
Yeah, I didn't watch the full match. I was landing when a lot of these subs came on. So there was a stretch of 15, 20 minutes that I missed. Tough to comment on. The Neto's by far the biggest name on the list, and I think the one that's going to contribute most. I was actually relatively disappointed with Nkunku's play today. Think left winger isn't, at least what I saw, was fitting for him. So I wasn't thrilled with that. So I think Neto is an instant and obvious replacement on that left wing for him. And then Nkunku has sort of better spots in the squad. So I think he's by far the obvious one. The one I want to see, I think the door is wide open for position is Gu, because I don't think Nico's done anything to solidify that spot right now. We'll see what happens with Osimhen, but I think the more Nico misses, the more that Gu and his physicality and what we saw in preseason will at least be able to be showcased. Now, obviously a tall tale to see if he does better and finishes more. Yeah, Nico hasn't done enough yet to really like bolt down that position, where Cucurella and Gusto have done much more to lock down the left side there. And our midfield is super crowded. So someone like Dewsbury Hall, I think, is going to have a very, very, very tough time cracking into what's already a pretty crowded midfield.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Pedro Neto is the obvious one. If you look at the other 3 substitutions, it was so limited, and the touches that they had, I wouldn't say they were disappointing, just they were kind of out there, right? It's like when you throw on a sub in FIFA for the 80th minute, and then they end up with like a 4-3 rating because they really didn't get that many touches. Like that's kind of what it seemed like to me. But yeah, Neto definitely stands out. I mean, we'll have to see what happens, right? I think for us, the big thing is going to be, especially with our injury history, is going to be squad rotation and seeing, Park, like you said, we have a lot of surplus, especially in the midfield, and seeing how all of that kind of works out, what those partnerships look like. We talked about it a ton last year, right? With Chilwell, Mudryk, Cucurella, Mudryk, Chills, Raz, like what's the combination? I think we're going to have more of that given the surplus of players that we have right now. It's a situation that we often don't find ourselves in, right? It's normally players playing out of position just to make an 11. Now we're in this position where we have a lot of people who can do a lot of different things, and you're going to see a lot of different combinations. So I think Maresca is still trying to figure that out. But yeah, it was nice to see Neto. Again, we all know what he can do. We all know what he's done against us at Wolves. He's definitely, I think, going to be a very good fit for this club and the style of play that it looks like we're looking to attain.
Can we talk about the Nico Jackson hate for a second? I'm getting all kinds of vibes from you guys today. For a guy who scored 17 goals last year after missing a month and a half for AFCON. I mean, look at what he did today. Yeah, again, he was offside by a half step on a rebound. Like, okay, like calm down on that one. It almost has a scissor kick goal. Was consistently in on Ederson on balls over the top. What more do you want out of the guy? Like he did what he could do today, barring a great performance by Ederson. He probably could have had a couple goals.
I personally wouldn't call it heat. I would just say he's now set the bar. He's set the bar high based on his performance last year. And to me, the offsides one, to me, that one annoys me because he was looking down the line at the last defender. You shouldn't, you know where the defender is. You know where the last defender is. You should be onside. Half step, still, offsides is offsides, right? We've seen that at length here at Chelsea, right? Being off by what seems like a shoelace all the time. Either way, stay onside in that scenario. But again, I think it's just because he set the bar so high based on his performance last year. He needs to be able to build on that. And what I saw was kind of a lot of the similarities of stuff that we kind of harped about last year. I saw a lot of the same things. Like, yes, his work rate's going to be there. He's going to be a menace. Sure. But again, it's the finishing, the offsides. You can be a menace all you want, but if you don't produce after the season you just had, yeah, you're going to catch some flack. That's just the nature of anything, right? You do something really good the year before, the expectations on you now grow to become even better and to do more. And I haven't seen, granted it's one game, I haven't seen that. I'm just seeing a lot of the same stuff as last year.
Mine's not hate at all, to be fair. I don't hate him, and I don't think he doesn't deserve to play. Dewsbury Hall, I hate. Jackson, I don't. I just don't think he's done. Like, when you look across our 11 positions on the field, it's like there are certain guys who are must start, who have locked in their position that they're not going anywhere. Cole Palmer's not going to not feature for us. Cole Palmer's healthy. He's playing in big games, especially unless he's resting for squad rotation. Reece James is playing. Right now, Bobby Sanchez, he's locked it in until proven otherwise. Jackson's there right now. I just think that, like, if he continues to not score, if he goes as stretches, we've got someone who looked hungry, looked physical, looked like he could be at or near that level too. So he's going to have some competition on his ass if he doesn't continue to score. There's no hate for Nico. I like Nico.
All right. Well, you'd mentioned Victor Osimhen possibly coming in. Sounds like still some work on that, as well as got him waiting on our streak here for something to pop up about João Felix in the next 40 minutes that we're potting here. But on the other end, outgoings, we've got some big name players being frozen out of the squad, including Raheem Sterling, who didn't make the matchday squad, and a statement was released to, I think, the Daily Mail from his people prior to the match. So we've got some big names who are not in Maresca's plans, including, like I said, Chilwell, Sterling, Conor Gallagher. What do we make of this?
The Gallagher one is obvious because he's not only linked, he actually trained with Atletico. So, like, he was out, but it's been held up, due to some of the other dealings that are trying to go on, namely João Felix. The surprising one for me was Sterling, because I thought Sterling started today. Like, I thought he was part of our best 11 that would get the nod today. Stills, I think the writing's been on the wall. I don't think he featured at all for us in preseason. Oh, writing on the wall there. We're crowded over there too. It's tough because Chills was a vice captain and leader of our team. It just doesn't seem like he's fitting the plans. But I'm really curious what happens with Raheem, because it seemed like he was playing decent ball. I actually liked a lot of what I saw from him in preseason, and I just didn't. I didn't think that he was going to be frozen out like this. I thought he was definitely part of the plans. So we'll see what happens there. But very curious to see if now you're going to hear some buzz around a transfer rumors for him.
I think the timing of it is interesting. You know, we heard about Gallagher, and then, you know, a week later, right, Atletico Madrid, like, cool. Chills, we've kind of seen and heard rumblings about it. Like, again, that was well in advance of the first match of the season. This one kind of came out of nowhere. Kind of seemed like just something today. I'm fine if you tell a player like, hey, you know, we're moving in a different direction. But whatever's been going on behind the scenes, it seems like Maresca has been pretty direct about a lot of these things. And if this one just comes up last minute, I can understand being pissed off about it. I can absolutely understand that. It's just weird. That's all. The timing of the whole thing is really weird. We know he's been linked, and Collins, you'll have to correct me, but Juve, I think, was the team that was being linked to him. If it's been linked, maybe there's some stuff that'll come out tomorrow about maybe things have furthered in that process or whatever, or maybe they're just trying to work on making sure that it happens. Whatever the case is, I just don't like the way it went down.
So I think there's a lot to play, or a lot at play in the Sterling saga. You know, according to The Athletic, Sterling was notified Friday after their last training that he would not be a part of the matchday squad. I think it's interesting that his people put out that statement with the Daily Mail today, if they knew on Friday. That's a very calculated move, I would say. But I think, you know, the Sterling thing has been going back and forth for a couple of years now, or maybe a year and a half, with his underperformances. You know, there's been smoke around him. Sterling doesn't want to go. He wants to stay and be a leader. And then, you know, we hear rumors of, oh, there's a Saudi club interested in him. I think the club has been shopping him for a while. I think he doesn't fit the new wage structure. And I think this is their way of telling him, hey, we don't care if you want to stay. You either train with the U21s or you get out of here. And I think that's really the only way that the club can play that if they want to get rid of him. You know, on $300,000 a week, it's going to be hard to just terminate his contract. You're going to be eating a lot of costs there. But, you know, Maresca in preseason talked about Sterling. I think he very specifically said he's an important player to the squad. Parker, as you said, he played well. He played a lot in preseason. This leads me to believe that João Felix is almost done, because that's the position João Felix is going to be brought into play, is that left wing. And you can't have Mudryk and Sterling and Felix and possibly Nkunku, like, all down that left. That deal's got to be almost done. And so this is their way of clearing up space there. But I don't have anything to back that up. That's just kind of how I see the moving parts working here. I'm good with it. For as good as Sterling has been in preseason, we've seen this show before, right? Shines in preseason, shines for a couple weeks earlier in the year, and then goes on a 4 or 5 month spell of being shit. And then we're asking for him to be sold. So let's just skip all that part and just sell him right away at the beginning.
I agree. I think we've been kind of saying he needs to be sold for a while. So I don't think the issue is like us wanting to sell him. The way that it all kind of came about so quickly seems weird, just given what's happened with like Chills and Gallagher and stuff like that. It's been known well before, and this one kind of seemed last minute. So
I will say I'm going to give Enzo Maresca credit. Fans have been calling for years and through various regimes, various squads of, oh, cut the deadwood, like get rid of players who don't fit the system. Okay, like we're doing that now, so don't cry. Yes, Ben Chilwell is a tough one. Vice captain, Champions League winner, was great when he was healthy. He hasn't been healthy for 2 years now. I think he's played a total of like 30 matches in the last 2 years. It's okay for us to let him go. Let him shine somewhere else. Let him kind of rebuild his career somewhere else. He doesn't need to do it here if we have faith in Cucurella, who balled out today. and Renato Vega, who's a guy for the future. Oh, we also have Caleb Wiley, by the way, at Strasbourg. So it's time, and I'm glad they gave him advance notice, right? They told him a couple weeks ago, and Maresca said it in a press conference. Like, he's a great player. He just doesn't fit what we're doing. So if he wants minutes, he needs to go somewhere else. I give Maresca credit for the way he's been handling all of this. All right.
Felix, though. Can we talk about Joao Felix again, quick?
Go ahead.
I'm just curious because, like, I'm curious if wages are going to be a problem with him. I just feel like he's going to be a higher paid player. And so I don't know what we're going to be able to, like, that's probably what's holding some of this up. I don't know what we're going to be able to get him on. And it seems like a higher fee than what I would want to spend. I know we touched on this a bit last week, but what do you guys think about bringing him in with some of that known?
So what's his name? The big Spanish transfer guy, the Fabrizio of Spanish football, DeMarzo, I think is his name. Tweeted, I think it was yesterday, that Joao Felix has agreed to a contract within Chelsea's wage structure. He's agreed to a pay cut because he wants out and he wants Chelsea. As for the fee, yeah, I think we're probably going a little over. I think we're having to pay for backing out of the Samu deal. He's still 24. He's got all kinds of first team, top division, national team experience, and he knows Chelsea. He's been at Chelsea. He's familiar with the fans. I'm good with it. For as much as we've struggled on the wings and struggled with guys who can create shots for themselves, get it done. I think 45 million for a 24-year-old with that kind of experience. I think you're taking a flyer. It's a lottery ticket, and I think it's a low risk, high reward one.
From what I see right now, he's about 125 a week.
So if he's taking a pay cut,
Probably
maybe
down
he's down.
to
Maybe
Yeah, the one I saw it looked like weekly wages was 224, but I brought up salaries for it. There's wildly unreliable things on the internet for salaries,
especially in Spanish football. But so maybe 150, which is what we offered Connor.
It is going to be interesting though if you bring him in with what we're talking about with Nico Jackson and now with Nkunku. Like, we still have Mudryk. We'll still probably have Raz until probably end of August. What does that do? Where do we play people? Front three is looking even more congested than our midfield.
So let me counter that, devil's advocate that. Look at who we played today. They went out, their only signing of the summer so far is Savinho. Phil Foden rode the bench until Savinho got injured today. Who cares? You got talent. Like, it will sort itself out, but you can't have enough talent.
Well, and let's also not forget we have Pedro Neto on the left as well. So that left side is ridiculous right now. There's just a lot. And Nkunku can play that 9 if he needs to. And then, yeah, there's a lot of combinations there. And I think finding the right one is going to take a lot of time, just like, what I talked about with the left side, who's going to be doing what. Like, there are a lot of pieces to try and move right now. And I think the more pieces we have, the longer figuring out our best 11 is going to take. And at Chelsea, you aren't necessarily given that much time to figure it out. So I hope it does get resolved, but that brings a lot of questions.
All right. Well, boys, let's I guess what are your first reactions now that we've seen Maresca-ball in serious competition here, not just preseason friendlies trying to work out the kinks. We've seen 90 minutes of Maresca-ball. What are your first impressions? Low, high, room for improvement? What do you think?
We better say room for improvement. Otherwise it's going to be kind of a rough go. I know you don't play City every week, but parts were good. We still have a decent amount of issues that isn't going to get fixed by anyone's system, in my opinion. We still have some relatively glaring weak spots. It'll be interesting to see Reece James, because I think Reece James is going to bring something different to that team. Bit of leadership, bit of captaincy, and some swag on the ball. So I'm excited to see him. And then I think, I kind of miss Noni out there. To be completely honest, I thought he can play a role in Maresca-ball too. My overall opinion on it, though, is not too far different than Potch-ball. Similar styles, similar kind of way we play. I think we need to go over the top more. I know our commentators talked a lot about that, but I think the way City press, we needed to play over the top more. I think we've got some other guys that can kind of open up play like that a little bit more. We've got guys that can make those passes. We've got guys that can make those runs. That all takes time. That's going to be figured out in time. The passing was a lot better than the last time we played City, which was just 2 weeks ago. We made a lot of really dumb passing errors in the City friendly, and that's gotten cleaned up in 2 weeks. So that's a bit of positive that I can see kind of taking from this and moving forward on it. But as unfortunate as it all is, when I look at last year and I look at this year, we drew City twice in the league last year. One was 4-4, one was 1-1. And we lost to City this year. So unfortunately, it's a step back on a comparative year-over-year look, which you don't love to see. But I think there's going to be a lot of other results that go the other way. So over the course of a 38-game season, it's not any reason to hit the panic button yet, or today, or for any reason like that. It's hard to judge it against literally one of the best teams in the world, team that's, you said it, Collins, they've made one signing. They all know each other very, very well. They're all very familiar with each other. And they have a coach who's been there for 9 seasons, who's had a lot of time to instill his values, beliefs, directions, and a captain in De Bruyne who runs a pretty tight ship. So no reason to overreact, but improved, and still a lot of room for improvement going forward.
I like what we're doing in attack. I like seeing that. My issue with that, and again, based on the portions that I did watch, it seems like we're trying to do something that we can't do, which is the quick one-touch passing. I don't think who we have up there is good enough to do that, or at least comfortable enough to do that. It seems like we're, constantly in this place where people are still trying to figure out where they need to go, what kind of touch they need to make. We're making sometimes the wrong touch. We're not making the right one, the right pass. There's still a lot, and it seems like we're trying to do something that we're not capable of. Nico's first touch isn't the greatest. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just not the greatest. I thought Enzo's first touch today on a lot of stuff was not great, especially the one where he tried to get a penalty called. That was just a bad touch, and he just hit the deck. Wasn't a great touch. And Kunku, again, you need a very good first touch in order to pull off a lot of that stuff. I don't know that we're at that level right now where we have the right personnel to be able to do that. I did like the possession, especially against the City team who always dominates possession. It was pretty split, which is surprising if you think about it. So that was great to see. I'm still not sold on Enzo in that central attacking mid position. I'm not sold on it, but maybe I just need to see more of it. It almost seems like he's not comfortable. He's not comfortable there. But again, maybe that's something he grows into and stuff like that. Defensively, we're still kind of a nightmare when it comes to our center backs. The wings, I think, are fine. I thought Gusso did a good job of locking down Doku. Cucurella had a good game. Unfortunately, when I saw him, he got burned twice by Savinho throwing out the Jorginho leg and just getting absolutely torched down the wing. It's 2 plays. It is what it is. Nothing came of it. Overall, I thought he played well, but it's still that center back issue that we have. Lavia is great out there, and I don't know. To me, I don't know if Enzo has the fitness to do the central attacking and track back. I did see some issues with that, and a lot of times it almost seems kind of childish from 2 instances that I saw where he didn't get the penalty, and the other one, I think him and Jackson kind of ran into each other in the box, and then he just kind of hung out in Ederson's goal for a while, in his goal box. That's an issue that I have, but I'm kind of nitpicking at stuff at this point. It's a tough game against a City to start. Could it work? Yes, I do think that there is a lot of room for improvement, but going forward, it looks good. defensively were still an issue.
Yeah, and I agree with most of that, Matt. I agree with the general premise, not necessarily the nitpicks, but going forward, I was impressed. I saw a lot more, diagonal balls, diagonal long balls. You're looking for Nkunku, looking for Palmer, looking for Gusto than I saw under Poch. And I think that's the way to break down a team like City. Again, I think we're just unlucky that Ederson had a hell of a game today. I don't like Enzo in that 10 role that he was today, but the vast majority, 80 to 90% of our best attacks funneled through Enzo. And then him picking out a pass that led to, a shot, a chance, an XG, whatever you want to call it. So I like what I saw out of Enzo today. Was Graham Potter-esque Enzo, right? When we were all super impressed when Enzo came in under Potter and his touch and all that. That's what I saw today. I don't know necessarily if you drop him back into that 6 role. I wasn't as impressed with Caicedo, but it is what it is. Like we've been saying all pod, you're going against the world champs, the 4-time Premier League champs. Super hard to judge there. My only real question with what Maresca is doing. Well, first of all, before I get to that, I real quick want to give props to Cucurella, the inverted wing back. When he came off, that's when the midfield became an issue. That's when Kovacic started running shit in the middle, is when Cucurella came off, because we no longer had the numbers in the midfield. But Cucurella forced Doku to the other side of the pitch. Yeah, he had a couple where he stuck out a leg. But in general, he had his wing shut down. The only real issue became, when he had to drop centrally. And now I get to my issue with the selection. Levi Colwill, not knowing where he's supposed to be, what he's supposed to be doing. I said it last year. I don't think the guy is right now at a Chelsea level. I would have much rather seen Disasi out there if he's healthy, which apparently he is. Disasi, we saw last year, loves the challenge of City. We saw how jacked he got in the 2 matches he played against them last year. Putting him up against Haaland instead of Colwill, kind of second guessing where he's going all the time, I thought would have been a vast improvement. So that was my one issue with Maresca's selection. But overall, the tactics I thought were great. Colwell's really the only one on the pitch that I can say, wow, he did not have a good game. Gusto, I guess the argument can be made for. I've seen the argument for Enzo, but I don't believe it. But there really weren't any bad performances out there. It came down to 2 Colwill errors. And yes, Caicedo and Enzo had a part to do with the second goal. But Colwill is the last line of defense, needs to do a lot better. And it would not surprise me if he does not play against Servette on Thursday.
The other center back, though, with West Fofana, I thought West played a pretty decent game. I know there's been a lot of smoke around his name just with, people not understanding what he's going to bring back to the table. I was skeptical just seeing some shakier performances in preseason after not seeing him feature all last year. So happy to see him kind of regain some confidence and kind of play at a higher level than we've seen him. So I'm happy to see that.
All right. Well, boys, let's go to our 2 favorite polls. And that is the man of the match and man of the get the fuck out of here polls. Of course, you can always catch those after matches on our Twitter/X page at FlagDownPod. And we'll start with the man of the match. Like I said, I don't think there were too many bad performances. There were a select few good performances. So the 4 options we threw out there were Enzo, Malo Gusto, Romeo Lavia, and Marc Cucurella. Matt, we'll start with you. Who's your man of the match?
To me, Lavia, and only because we didn't know what to expect out of him. I think he was probably the biggest wild card, maybe in that starting lineup, because we didn't fully know what we were going to get out of him, especially in a match of this capacity. And I thought he lived up to the expectations that were put upon him. So for me, it's Lavia.
I know I'm going to regret saying this, but I'm going off the board. Player I don't like. I'm going to say Big Bobby Sanchez. Thought he had a great game. I thought he did. I thought he had a great game. I thought that he made some pretty legit great saves and didn't cause errors as much as we've seen him do. I thought he had a great game. So, and while I thought we had a couple good performances, nobody stood out as like really having a great performance in the outfield for me. So I, again, reluctant to say it, hate to say it, but I'll give him his due.
When I voted in the poll, I voted Enzo, just because, again, like I said, all of our attacks seem to go through him. But as the day has gone on, I have reverted to Mark Cucurella. Very impressed with the way he shut down Doku. I was thinking during the match, because I had my wife there with me, of, man, if I only saw Jeremy Doku play against Chelsea, like that's the only time I've ever seen him play, I would not think that he's a good player. And Mark Cucurella started that today. I got to give him the man of the match. But, Matt, you are a man of the people. Lavia with 55%. Cucurella in second with 29, and Enzo with 16. No votes for Bobby Sanchez, Parker. Sorry.
I didn't vote in the poll.
All right, turning to our man to get the fuck out of here. The worst performance of the day. Again, this one was a little tough. Not too many terrible performances out there. Certainly some subpar ones. And this one honestly got a little interesting. So I'm curious to see where you guys go. We had Caicedo, Colwill, and Kunku, and fill in the blank. So, Parker, we'll start with you. Where are you going?
I think that the people are going to say Levi. Yeah. I'm going with Nkunku just because I had a very high bar for where I thought his level would be at. And I didn't see a lot of it come through. And, I think he knows he's got a lot to prove. We've talked about crowded midfield left area. That number 10 spot's going to be kind of up for grabs a little bit. So I think he tried to do a little too much, but I didn't love, he like kind of instantly cut back on his right a lot and it went nowhere. It was sort of, Noni likes to go all the way to the touchline and then try to make something happen. It's back through the middle and then try to make something happen, but it got completely shut down instantly. So it didn't seem like he was dynamic enough to like go down with his and then put a ball in with his left. So I was just very underwhelmed with his play. So I'll give it to him.
Collins, who do you have? Because I'm still thinking about how I want to answer this.
I went Colwill. Starting with the first goal, him stepping out or lunging to intercept the pass that wasn't there, which then freed up Haaland for a free run at goal. And then you look at the second one, yes, there were missed tackles on Kovacic's run and soft attempts at it. Colwill didn't even step up to close him down. That's number one for a center back, especially when you have Fofana right next to you, who has done a good job the rest of the match of covering your ass. Colwill is not up to standard and was not up to standard. He's responsible for both goals today, so he's my man to get the fuck out of here.
So I understand Colwill. I'm trying to think about this in terms of who did not live up to my expectations. Whether they're warranted or not, right? They're just my own expectations. To me, a part of that wants to say Nico, so I'm going to say Nico. The other thing that I didn't mention before is the yellow card he got because Enzo got fouled or something like that, and he just sprints all the way back to basically just tackle Haaland to try and argue with the ref. Again, same shit as last year. Like, it's frustrating. So for me, I'm going to go with Nico. I'm hoping that this falls into if I talk enough shit about him, he'll shut me up. That's kind of what I'm banking on. So Collins, I'm doing it for the good of the club and for the good of Nico. So give me Nico.
All right. Well, the winner was fill in the blank. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, did anyone vote for Anthony Taylor?
No, surprisingly. But we're going to avoid that conversation. That's a whole another hour-long pod about Anthony Taylor. So the winner was other, but that was split between 4 or 5 different people. So among the registered accounts, it was Nkunku with 22%, Colwill and Caicedo both with 19. I want to read off some of these others for you. First from T-Bar CFC. Says Enzo by a mile. Dreadful in the press. Created nothing. Constantly bypassed in transition. Nowhere near as good to play as an 8. How he played the full 90 is beyond me. CFC Olo says Jackson. True Blue Allen says the whole team and the manager. Voice of Reason says Cole Palmer. And Sky says Enzo. I know the center backs weren't very good, but feel the captain shouldn't be spending so much time crying for penalties / fouls or really doing idiotic things that could get them carded. I mean, at the end of the day, he didn't get carded. So maybe that's an Anthony Taylor discussion. All right. So again, make sure to check out our polls after most matches, we'll say, on X. Again, that's man of the match and man to get the fuck out of your polls. So boys, before we shut it down for the week, we do have Conference League playoffs coming up Thursday against Swiss side Servette. I don't know. It's French or something. I know nothing about them. How do we feel it's going to go?
I feel like it can't go worse than we saw it, right? And it's going to be a more interesting look at, like, because we saw this. I'm referencing preseason a lot. That's all I have to go off of. But we saw the sharp difference between like a Club America and a City or a Celtic. Some of these teams who are in form versus teams that just are not up to like the same level. I'm hoping we just see a lot more crisp. It's one of those matches where you just try to take care of your business, create chances, and put a couple home, because you're going to get chances. We have to shoot. We're going to get shots off. We just have to be able to put stuff on target. Good things happen, and we should be able to walk through with it.
I'm looking to see if I know anybody on that team.
That's what I was just doing too.
One, he is the right back. That's the only name that sticks out to me. But in any event, I hope it goes in a better direction. It's going to depend on who goes out there, right? We're in this learning phase of who's going to work with who, what the partnerships are going to look like. We throw out 11 players who have never played together. It could get ugly very quick. You never know with stuff like this. And I'm hoping this is something we can just walk in, take care of business, problem solved, like we're done. But we'll see. I'm optimistic about it, but I'm also holding reservations, because that's one thing you have to start doing as a Chelsea fan nowadays.
Yeah, I think that the Conference League is one of the few that we have an absolute shot at winning this year in terms of trophies. The other cups are always a flip of a coin, right? I would love to see a strong squad go out there. But falling behind by 3 points after week 1, you're going to need a strong squad against Wolves coming up over the weekend. Unfortunately, I think we're seeing, Mark Gu, we're seeing Dewsbury Hall, we're seeing some of the guys who came on for late appearances, Renato Vega featuring this one, maybe Philip Jorgensen making his debut. Let's hope.
Reece James.
Yeah, Reece James is eligible to play. He's not suspended in European competition. So I would love to see a big win here so that we can just not worry about the return leg in a week's time. But man, it's going to be a weird squad going out there is my prediction. All right. Well, boys, it's been a fantastic week of chatting with you guys, not necessarily of watching football, but Premier League is back. So we're excited. Make sure to check us out every single Sunday. Follow us on social media at FlagDownPod. Subscribe, rate, and review to our podcast on any podcast platform. Of course, we always really appreciate that. And, if you got anything you want us to talk about on the pod, like I said, with the polls and the comments, drop us a comment on Spotify, send us a DM, leave us a comment on social media, all that good stuff. We'll make sure to shout you out. So, boys, it's been a pleasure. And we'll chat again in a week's time.
Sounds good.